Uh, so Alex said that there's been no successful airline attack since the creation of the TSA, which is true, but there's also never been a reported stop terrorist attack since the inception of the TSA. The shoe bomber, the underwear bomber, both of them were stopped by civilians on the plane. Bruce Schneier, who is the leading critic of the TSA and also an expert in cryptology and security, states that even with all these actual and potential failures, there has been no successful terrorist attack against airplanes since 9/11. If there were lots of terrorists just waiting for us to let our guard down and destroy American planes, we would have seen attacks, attempted or successful, after all these years of screening failures. No one has hijacked a plane with a knife or gun since 9/11, and not a single plane has blown up due to terrorism. So even with those 2004 statistics of 22,000 firearms found, there's still countless firearms that get past them, and none of them have actually been used to hijack a plane for terrorism purposes or at all. So, as for the biometric scanners, the iris scanners that he was talking about, those have been actually proposed for a long time now to be used in the TSA, but for some reason they have neglected ever looking into them until recently. The first proposition for them that was reported through a scholarly source was back in 2008 off of an international science article, periodical called Nature, in which the recommendation of iris scanners was suggested as the for both personnel and travelers, because an iris or even a handprint or a fingerprint is very, very hard to replicate. I mean, fingerprints aren't all unique, but it's very, very difficult to find someone with the same exact fingerprint, therefore creating a much safer flight and much safer security in the airport in general, because it's much harder. Current airport personnel, their method of getting in and out of the airport is essentially a 4-digit PIN, which can easily be found out based off of a person and used. The TSA has long since been funded at $7 billion annually, not 4.6, which shows that they are actually realizing that this entity isn't worth the money that they've been pouring into it for a very long time. And as for inefficiencies, it's not a reoccurring, it is a very, very heavily reoccurring thing with the TSA that they have failed lots of screenings. 8 airports around the nation flunked secret safety tests conducted by the Department of Homeland Security, according to a report from 2015. This was recently. This was, I believe, the report was done back in 2004, according to Philip Messling of the New York Post. Even though the TSA implements wasteful practices that have no scientific backing. For example, one of the TSA's pet projects was called SPOT, which stands for it's called FAST, which is the Future Aptitude Screening Technology, which is actually being funded at $10 billion a year. And the idea is to detect passengers for malintent using basically a full-size body polygraph, which can actually The polygraph can be tripped, whether or not you are getting sweaty or getting nervous. The polygraph is a century old and was originally used for medical purposes, just to try and figure out what was wrong with the person, not to detect if they were lying. And it actually can't detect if they were lying reliably. It's a very, very inefficient machine. According to Sharon Weinberger of Nature, FAST operates on much the same physical principle as a century-old polygraph, which seeks to reveal lies by measuring psychological responses, such as respiration, cardiac rate, and electrical resistance of the skin when a subject is being asked a series of questions. Now, criminals aren't really known to be wavering. That's more of a common person aspect. When you get nervous because the police are talking to you because they think you did something wrong. Criminals know what their intent is, they know what they're doing, yet they're okay with it. There is something psychologically wrong with them, which allows them to pass these tests and make it appear as though they are not actually going to do anything wrong. As for the new screening processes, the current screening process is atrocious. Someone can know if they're on the no-fly list just by checking the website. And from that point, it is actually possible and has been done by Bruce Schneider and Jeffrey Goldberg, who is a freelance journalist. And it is possible to actually purchase the ticket underneath a false identity with a false or stolen credit card, and then actually edit your boarding pass with your name on it in Photoshop and go through the TSA, which they had done in April of 2012.